You're listening to another ambitious Entrepreneur Network.com podcast, the voice for entrepreneurs and small business. Now, onto the show.
This is Women in Leadership Podcast, featuring success insights from women around the globe. Now, over to your host, Anne-Marie Cross.
And welcome to another episode of Women in Leadership Podcast, brought to you by the Influence Alliance, the business building community for coaches and consultants who want to build a profitable and scalable business. Now, my guest today says there is no one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to LinkedIn. Stop comparing yourself to others and stay in your own lane. And joining me on today's show is Jennifer Corcoran. Now, Jennifer, she is a LinkedIn trainer and strategist who helps female coaches and consultants and trainers to attract their ideal client, to reach that next level of revenue without having to pay for ads or do awkward cold outreach. Ooh, we all hate that, don't we? Now, on today's show, Jennifer is going to share the power of networking and connecting with others, particularly using the LinkedIn platform, the power of personal branding and niching, as well as how to start to value your time, charge your worth. So welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Thanks so much, Anne-Marie. Thanks for having me. It's great to be chatting to you on the other side of the world and that we've made it work.
I know. I was saying to one of my guests this morning, because I started interviewing on the podcast, I batch record. I started off in California and I will finish in the UK this evening. And it really is a global community, which is wonderful, because I know that one of the areas that you're going to share today is really about how can we leverage or better leverage the LinkedIn platform, because this is something that you're an expert in and highly experienced in, and it's often a platform we're not leveraging to the best. Would you agree?
Absolutely. I think the majority of people, they opened a LinkedIn account recently or years ago and kind of fudged their profile but never did any training on it. So a lot of them think they know what it's about, but they don't, because they've never delved in deep.
Yeah, so let's unpack that then. I mean, one of the areas that you mentioned, with the power of networking, and you just mentioned about the profile. What would you say are some of the things that we need to check for to make sure that when we do start networking, the profile that we have there is going to put our best foot forward? What are some insights here for our profile?
I think just doing your research. A lot of people put up what they think they should be putting up, but especially business owners, they don't really do their research and they're not sure of what their keywords are or what their clients are looking for. So I would say, if you have an existing audience, doing a survey with them, asking them questions is so valuable for you. And you can basically put those words or phrases back throughout your profile so you're found. Likewise, if you were an executive and you're looking for a job, you'd look up a job spec and you'd look at the hard skills and the soft skills and make sure they were throughout your profile so that you're found by a recruiter or a company. The same applies if you're a business owner. So you need to do your research and figure out what are the keywords related to your company, to your clients, and there are lots of great keyword sites out there, keyword planner sites that can help you. One I use is moz.com, moz.com. Another useful site is Word Tracker. So it's just WORD and then TRACKER. And that will give you an example of more keywords. So especially on Word Tracker, you just type in a word. So it could be me, LinkedIn. And then I see all of the other keyword phrases that people are looking for related to LinkedIn, and then I can choose the ones that best suit me. So I think, going under the hood, and this is like basic business advice, is not just for LinkedIn, but going under the hood and knowing who you are, what you stand for, what's your vision, what's your mission, what's your message, who's your ideal client, and then building out your profile. Whereas a lot of people kind of force something together and they're like, it's not working. And then when I dig deep, they've got no keywords in there. And your LinkedIn profile, it works like a website. So branding is lovely and it is super important, but it's all about the words in LinkedIn. So you have to make sure you've got the right words in your profile.
And I think one of the things that you mentioned, I want to just stress, you said that some of these things are probably things that they've heard before. Yes, some of the simplest of things, the reason it's not working is because you haven't actually gone deep enough. Or you may also be, and this is one of the things I'm sure that you would have a discussion with your clients, when an individual or an entrepreneur is not really clear on where is my lane, what is my lane, and where do I really want to build my thought leadership around, that comes across in your profile, it comes across in the content you share, because it's so diverse, you're actually stretching yourself so thin. So okay, so say we've gone and we've done a little bit more research on some of those keywords, you've listed some great websites there or resources to check through. What are some things that you can maybe recommend? Because I'm sure that, you mentioned LinkedIn as an area that you are highly experienced in, a thought leader in. How do we, if we are in a competitive market, how do we then take the keywords and kind of then differentiate ourselves? So for you, and for instance, yes, LinkedIn, but I'm sure that there are things that you do that are quite different and for your specific target market than say other people who may be also experts, with the LinkedIn profile. What sort of insights can you share here?
I think once you've got a clear message, that needs to feed through all your content. So, like you were saying, if you have too many messages, you're going to confuse people. And if you've got too many client avatars, and I've been guilty of this. When I started, I had 5 client avatars. I was talking to like a job seeker, a student, a marketing manager, a solopreneur, and a larger company. And it's confusing. And the number one rule of digital marketing is a confused mind will always say no. But if
Yes.
you're clear on who you're talking to, that particular niche, you just tailor your content around them, and it makes your content so much easier. You're not like pulling your hair out going, what am I going to say? So for
Yeah.
me at the moment, my niche is female entrepreneurs. So I really just, it's basically me 5 years ago before I set up in business, and trying to kind of share and educate the things that I didn't know and I wish I had known. So you can, it makes content creation so much easier if you do niche down. And I get that it is super hard to do because you want to help everyone, but you on LinkedIn, you really need to lead with one thing. Otherwise, it gets confusing and you won't be top of mind. So for me, hopefully people will go, oh yeah, I'm a female entrepreneur, or I know a female entrepreneur who's struggling with LinkedIn. That's Jennifer. Whereas another LinkedIn trainer may kind of lead with corporate workshops. And don't get me wrong, I do corporate, but I just lead with the female entrepreneur. That is the main niche for me. So I just
Yeah.
think that once you're clear and your messaging, your content, it just all comes together. When you're not niche and not super clear, it's kind of spray and pray, and you're just throwing things out there and nothing's really going to stick. And it's all
Hmm.
about that consistency. And I'd love to say, you're going to show up and it's just going to be a few messages related to your niche, and you're going to be, bombarded with, all these prospects. But it takes time, which is why you need to have a clear message. And they say currently it can take up to like 16 touch points. So you need to have that same message again and again and again and again. So people go, okay, that's what she does. So yeah, I just think having that clarity and focus and
Hmm.
keeping things simple. I think people try to complicate things, and they try to sound, I don't know, super intelligent or super formal on LinkedIn. And I think that the key is just talk like a human being. That way people will resonate with you. And when you've got a simple message, it is easy to understand. Don't overcomplicate things as well.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that we know now is so many more businesses are online, which is a good thing because that means your ideal client is most likely online as well. However, it makes it all the more important to have a message that really is niched and honed. And one of the things that you said, and I think that's well worth stressing or just re-emphasizing, is that so often, and I would imagine that you get this too, Jennifer, that people think, well, if I reduce my market and niche, that means that whilst I can help these people, I'm making my market so much more narrow. But I'm sure that when you start working with someone, or they'll come to you and they say, Jennifer, I know that you work with female entrepreneurs to help them to become visible on LinkedIn. Do you also help so and so? And so that gives an opportunity to speak. So you're not actually discrediting all of the other people who you could help. You're actually making it so niche that these people will most likely come to you anyway because they resonate with the message. Is that what's happening to you too?
Yeah, definitely. And even though I lead with the kind of female entrepreneur hat, that's the main hat for my content. I do also serve corporates, but the way I reach them is messaging, DMs, because they're
Yeah.
not really consuming content as much really as business owners. And
Mhm.
that's just a good way for me to reach them. And that seems to work. So you can have other hats. It's just about figuring out what is the best way
Best
to
way
reach them.
to reach. Yeah. Well, that's a great segue into the power of networking, connecting with others. You mentioned the DM. So let's unpack this, because I think this is probably one of the biggest areas of confusion. And some of the things that people may be doing could be putting people off. So the one tip is find the best way to reach the particular audience. Because I'm sure if you use like a random DM with, say, maybe some of the female entrepreneurs, they may not as likely be open to responding to you than the corporate. So share a little bit more about how you came up with that strategy, and what are some of the things that you recommend clients do that we can start to implement within our networking and really building connections on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I think it's just all about warm outreach and again doing your research. It's similar if you went to a face-to-face networking event. Just but say you belong to a chamber of commerce or a BNI or something like that, and you could go to the house, or maybe you get the delegate list in advance, and you look through and you go, "Oh, I want to speak to Anne-Marie." And maybe you look up the website, so you learn a little tiny bit about Anne-Marie, and then you can go over to the house or go direct and say, "Oh, hi Anne-Marie, I've read this about you, I'd love to connect with you." That will have an impact because you've done that tiny bit of research and you're making that person feel special. And the same applies to LinkedIn. It's all about warm outreach. So figure out a way that you can start that conversation that doesn't feel cold and icky and spammy. So there's loads of different ways you can do it. One is, do you belong to a shared group on LinkedIn, or do you belong to a shared network or association? If so, you just reach out and you just say, "Hi, I'm Marie. We both belong to the Women's Advanced Network. I would love to connect with you. Warm wishes, best wishes." And you're saying, we've got something in common, short and sweet. And Anne-Marie should accept that because she has joined that network to
Mhm,
network.
mhm.
Okay. So it's warm outreach. So that's where I usually start, is groups, networks, associations. And I would say I've built about a third of my network that way.
Yeah.
Then if they're not in a shared association or they're not in a LinkedIn group, you can have a look at their LinkedIn groups, see what they belong to. You just go to the very bottom of their profile, click on their interests, and you can see all the groups they're in. So if there is a group that you think, okay, that looks like quite a good group as well, join it. And then
Mhm.
that way you can message them for free within the group and say, "Hi, we both belong to XYZ group on LinkedIn. I'm looking to connect with like minds. I'd love to link up with you." And again, it's warm outreach. You've got something in common. So another thing you can do, if none of that works, is have a look at your mutual connections. So when you bring them up on LinkedIn, you'll see below your mutuals as your second degree connections. So you'll see you're both connected to, say, Laura. And then you can look through them and see, well, who do I know the most? Actually, I know Laura the most out of these 10 people. So I'm going to ask Laura to introduce me to Anne-Marie, and give a good reason as to why you want the introduction. It doesn't have to be war and peace, just some kind of clarification. And that's super powerful. That's like an email introduction. We all look at people that have been introduced to us, and we usually end up on the phone with them, on email or on Zoom with them. So that's a way, because LinkedIn is not just about your first degree network, it's about leaning in. And I've never had to go to my third degree network. I usually am only one person away from a good opportunity. So don't be afraid to ask for introductions. You're not asking for a recommendation, you're asking for an introduction, which is why you need to be super clear and give that kind of clarity to the person you're asking as well, so they know how to position it. That's
Yes.
another way. And then
Yeah.
another way is just look at their profile, do some research, see if you've got something in common. Do you live in the same area? Did you go to the same uni? Did you work for the same company? At a basic level, look at their content, look at their posts, and if they did a really good post recently which resonated with you, or an article, it could even be a year old, reach out and say, "Hi, Marie, I just read your article on ABC. I really loved it. I'd love to connect with you." Now, who wouldn't want to connect with that person because they've done a bit of research, there's a bit of interest in you, and that makes you stand out, as opposed to 90% of people on LinkedIn who just fire off the generic requests from the app. They don't personalize at all. So by just doing a sentence or two, that gets you that initial connection, that initial foot in the door.
Yeah. One of the things that I read just recently that someone said, just use the standard response. Now, I used to accept people. However, now I'm being a lot more mindful. I'd like to know where they connected with us, through, because you and I are both part of the Advanced Network, which is, by the way, an incredible network of, of women leaders in their business. And so I want to be mindful that I am connecting with people that I may have some form of connection with outside the LinkedIn. Not that I would not accept, but I'm being a lot more strategic. And that's one of the things, because I want to ask you in a moment, okay, once you do that, what are some of the other steps? Because I think we connect and then it's like, okay,
Yeah.
what do I do now? But this goes to show, unless we know who is the person that we want to connect with and we're just randomly connecting with anyone, that's not going to help us either. So you strategically, for your strategy, connecting with female business owners. So be mindful, who do you want to connect with? Be clear on that first. So once then you connect with them, what would be the next step? And I know this probably, Jennifer, sounds like this is so simple. Yeah, but for some people, this is especially for introverts who are more, not going to do that. This is going to be super helpful for them. So what would be the next step?
I mean, and I totally get it. Like, I cover this in strategy sessions and in my program, and I have scripts and templates to nudge people to kind of kick it off. And I think the first thing is, if someone accepts your connection request, thank them, pip up and say, hi, Mary, thanks so much for linking up, and start a conversation. It can be something short and sweet. I reference where I live a lot. I usually reference the weather. I know it's pretty boring, but we all relate to the weather. So I just say, hope you're having a great day. It's sunny today in Devon. I look forward to reading your content. Something short and sweet. So you've acknowledged it. And then by kind of name dropping Devon, where I live, or the weather, they usually pip up and say where they are, what it's like, Then you just take the conversation on. I usually move it to an audio message because I don't want to just have endless ping pong of written messages. And I think it's nice for people to hear your voice, realize you're a human being. So sometimes I'll go straight to an audio once they've accepted. I might thank them by audio, or I thank them in written form. I try to gauge really by their profile. Like you said, we're all different. Some are extroverts, some are introverts. I kind of go in deep. I've studied DISC and, profiling. So I can usually guess whether somebody is a red, green, blue, or yellow type of personality. So at a basic level, are they an extrovert? Are they an introvert? If they're an extrovert, they don't mind. They wouldn't even mind if I went straight in with a video, just saying, "Hey, how are you?" But if they're like a blue task focused introvert, that is not going to work. They're going to have a heart attack because they're going to be like, what is this? Do I have to do this? So I think gauging from someone's profile, what is their basic and you can gauge it from their content as well. So again, it's about do your research, try and figure out this person's personality type, and you can usually get a glean of that from their first message as well, whether they give you a lot of information or a little bit of information, and then try and kind of mirror their preferred communication style.
Yes.
Because it's the same as in real life. You're not going to force someone to get on a video if they hate it. If they want to talk on the phone, get on the phone. And the same applies to LinkedIn, really. But it's about just being a human being and having that chit chat first, the same way you would have in a face-to-face event. You don't go straight in. Some people do. It's super annoying. This is what I do. The card is shoved in your face and you're like, whoa, let's have some little
Yes,
chit chat.
my widget, buy it. If buy my widget, but come to my event kind of thing. Yeah, it
It's
just does.
like, just be a human being, a little bit of chit chat. You don't need to go hard in, even here, you can just make chit chat and hopefully they come back, they give you a bit of chit chat, and then you can respond there and then, or you can go back a few days later. I know a lot of people, they might say, what are you working on? And it's good, but for some people, you need to get to know them more before they kind of feel like I'm in a sales process here. What's going to happen? So I don't always go straight in for the kill. If we belong to a similar network like Advance, I'm up for connecting and saying, if you ever want to have a connection call, let me know, because we've got that shared network in common. So obviously it's different approaches for different people. If I was approaching a HR director or a marketing manager about a corporate speaking gig, I probably would go straight in and say, I'd talk a little bit about how I could benefit or the types of workshops I do for other companies. And if this is something that would ever be of interest to you, let me know, because they're kind of, it's not their money. I know that sounds terrible, but that's their job. It's their job to get in trainers. So you can be a bit more direct with some people, but with me and female entrepreneurs, I don't go in direct like that. I think of what is some kind of value I can give you after a few messages. Is it inviting you into my LinkedIn group so you can meet other female entrepreneurs and you can learn about LinkedIn? Is it inviting you to my next monthly Ask Me Anything LinkedIn Live where you can pick my brain for free? So I usually offer some kind of value like that first so that they can start to trust me. It's all about that know, like, and trust, and just get to know me before I go in where, hey, do you want a strategy session? Do you want to join my program? It is a relationship. So yeah, just nurturing. I think it's definitely good for all business owners to have some kind of value that they can offer, whether it is a group, hopping on a podcast, hopping on a live. But I usually ask for permission. I would say, would you like that, as opposed to, this is my podcast, this is my group, this is my
Yes.
ebook. I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. They kind of ram the value in other people's faces and they forget that person doesn't know you yet. So they're like, I'm already overwhelmed in my life and my business. Hopped onto LinkedIn for a few minutes. I don't have time to check out this. But if you ask for permission, 9 out of 10 times people say to me, when I explain what my group is or explain what my Ask Me Anything is, they go, yeah, I'd love an invite. So I think permission first is always a good approach.
Yeah. One of the things I think you mentioned, and this is so valuable in part of business and relationship building, is to do the research first and recognize the different, as you say, personas. The DISC profile is one that I think many people are familiar with. And I know for me, I'm more a D and then an I. And I'm quite happy for people to give me share a little bit more about their expertise, and if they've got a resource, I'm happy for them to share that, because then if I don't need it, then I'll say no thank you, not
Yeah.
now, or I can certainly keep that on record, because I think there's a balance, isn't there? Because sometimes we can go around and around and around, and it's like, just share, but make sure you do it in a strategic way and know to whom you're speaking with, or at least kind of gauge that. You mentioned LinkedIn Live, and I know that you do LinkedIn Lives, but these are some other things that you're also doing as part of content sharing. And so share a little bit more about some of the things that you do, and then also, if you would, what your, I mean, whether it's a daily or a weekly, I mean, all of this connecting and following up and so forth, you do this strategically. So I'm sure you put time aside. What does that look like, so that we can, at least for those who don't have this in place, can gauge what you're doing and what maybe other people are doing, so that we can put that kind of aside in our diary? Because this is something that is definitely working for you. Because how many people are following you? You're connected to quite a number of people.
I'm connected to over 10,000. I'm not sure the figure at the moment, but I know I've got just over 30,000 followers.
Yes.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's amazing, because you want to focus on a quality network rather than quantity. So don't you don't have to have 30,000 followers, and I'd love to say they're all my ideal clients. You do get people follow you who aren't your ideal client
Yeah,
as
oh,
well.
absolutely. But it goes to show that what you're doing is working,
Yeah.
because people would not necessarily follow you if you weren't giving away valuable content. So what are some of the content strategy that you're doing alongside the connecting?
I think, it's all about, again, doing your research and figuring out how much time do you have to spend on LinkedIn, because everybody's different. And I post Monday to Friday. I don't think you necessarily have to post Monday to Friday. You could post 3 times a week, maybe Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or even one time, one day a week. But if you're just posting one day a week, it has to be good quality content to make you memorable. Because if people miss one post, then they're only seeing you once every 2 weeks. Or if they miss those because of timing, you're only pipping up ad hoc. So
Yes.
for me, it's about consistency. It doesn't matter whether it's daily, weekly, or monthly. I've known some people with amazing weekly posts and amazing monthly posts. So if you're only going to post monthly, it has to be super amazing. It has to be a resource that people look forward to, and that keeps you top of mind. But in general, I would say post more than once a month, just so you are memorable. People are kind of see you showing up again and again. The same as face-to-face networking, because it helps to build that know, like, and trust. So,
Mhm.
if you're doing a face-to-face event, you get to know that person over time. Likewise, if you're popping up weekly on LinkedIn, people get to know you. I think
Mhm.
you don't always have to post either. So you could show up Monday to Friday, but without always posting. So maybe you're only posting 3 times a week, but the other days you're posting up and you're commenting. So you're
Mhm.
giving back to your network, because every time you leave a comment, you're leaving a little virtual business card of your headshot and your headline. And if you've got an impactful headshot and headline and impactful comments, you will stand out and people will reach out to you on the back of those comments to connect.
Yeah.
So it's not always about your original content. LinkedIn is a social network, so it's a two-way street. So to get traction, you have to give back to your network as well. If you
Mhm.
don't give back to them, when you do your content, you're going to get crickets. You're not going to get any likes or engagement, because it just feels like you're using LinkedIn as a notice board. And I
Mhm.
think get the balance right as well. On LinkedIn, you need to really earn the right to sell. So you can't be constantly buy my product, buy my service, buy my product, buy my service. You have to really follow the 80-20 rule, which is, 4 days out of 5, give amazing, valuable content. So share tips, hack strategies, inform people about things, educate them, inspire them, motivate them, be very customer centric and think, what does my ideal client want to see? How can I feed them that information? And then one day a week is a soft push about you. And that could be you sharing a testimonial. And I usually share a testimonial today on a Thursday. I have like the hashtag testimonial Thursday. That is my soft push, kind of saying, this is what I do, and this is what other people are saying about me. So I think getting the balance right is super important. So many business owners come onto LinkedIn and they hear, oh, I've heard it's a good place to get clients and stuff. And like their whole feed is like a notice board, and it's like buy, buy, buy. And they're like, LinkedIn doesn't work for me. I'm not getting any action. And I'm like, you are selling the whole time, and you have to realize people don't go on LinkedIn to buy. So if you're going on there selling the whole time, you're never going to get traction. People go on LinkedIn for connectivity, to connect with people, for
Yeah.
research, for inspiration, to dig deep on things happening in their niche. Um, you know, Lots of different reasons, but not to buy. It's not, I don't hop on LinkedIn and think, I'm going to buy a course today,
Yeah.
or I'm going to hire a grad. Sometimes you will want to hire somebody, and that's fair enough. But in general, it's not a place we go to buy. So that's why you need to nurture those relationships and
Mhm.
get LinkedIn to leverage it. To get those leads and prospects, you need to take people off LinkedIn ASAP. So it's not about hanging out all day with endless content creation, endless messaging in the DMs. It's if you actually strike a balance with somebody, some
Yes.
people will want to get on the phone pretty much straight away.
Yeah.
I reach out to you and say, hi, Marie, we're both members of the Vans. Do you want to would you like to connect sometime? Yeah, here's my link. So by the third message, you're on a Zoom. And that
Mm.
can happen if you are strategic and you're reaching out to the right people. So
Yes.
it is about having that strategic approach. I would say you can do it daily, do daily outreach. But for me, I prefer to batch. I prefer to either do weekly or monthly, and think, even if it's monthly, who am I reaching out today? Okay, we're both part of the advanced network. I'm going to look at the advanced directory of members and reach out to people I haven't connected with already. What other
Yes.
network do I belong to? I'm going to do the same there. So that's what I do. I batch it. So you could do it daily. You could reach out to, say, 5 potential clients every day and do it that way. But I personally prefer to batch. And on a daily basis, I'm focused on my post for the day, commenting. I try to do at least 10 comments every day, just so I'm showing up full speed ahead and commenting on your ideal client, not just commenting for the sake of it on random people, because that's not going to really get you the traction you
Mhm.
want. But yeah, I'm all about batching. So usually monthly, if I'm doing a lot of outreach, weekly, the odd time I might do something longer, like an article or just something more in depth. But on a daily basis, I would say I spend 15 to 20 minutes.
Mhm.
Some days a little bit longer, half an hour, and then once a month I could be on there for an hour or two, just doing that outreach as well.
Yes, doing that strategically. I love the batching side of things, and I think that's important. That the outreach too, and imagine on the daily aspects of what you're doing. I mean, obviously there may be a post, there's commenting. You allow time for that. Would you respond to people that have responded to you? I mean, that would be something that you would do naturally, wouldn't you? If you,
Yeah, no, I do that. I mean, you will, the odd time you will get a comment that is spammy. You know, somebody may be hijacking your thread and sharing a link, and you're thinking this is nothing to do with anything of this post. For that kind of comment, I just ignore it, you know. But any other comment that is, you know, normal, expected, I definitely go back and go, you know, go back to them. And the same if I did do a LinkedIn live, obviously while you're doing the live, you can't be in the comments. So once I jump off one of my shows, I'll go back in and then manually go through all the comments, just saying, you know, thanks for joining in. If they've
Mhm.
engaged, just, you know, feeding back on what they've said, because LinkedIn is a networking platform. I think a lot of people think of it just as social media and a place to just post. But to get it truly working for you, you have to network with people. And if people have left comments that I don't know from my second degree network or my third degree, if they're valuable like content comments, I will reach out and send them a connection request, because I'll think you're someone I'd like to have in my network, because you're someone who's an engager and a giver.
Yeah.
So that's another great way to build your network as well. If they've already taken the time to show up, they could be a potential lead down the line as well.
Yeah. And then you would naturally find when you're doing those things consistently, there may be some things if we're tracking and monitoring. And I think that's also very important. You may then be able to see a common theme, if you will, of coming through that this is what you spoke about when you were talking about what is the blend of things that are working for you, and then continue to do those. There's no point continuing to do something which is not really working, but there may be some real key things that you're doing. I love that you've reminded us about commenting on your ideal client's posts, add value, because it's so true. And I think this is one of the things that people don't recognize. The comments that you leave, thoughtful comments like a hey, that's wonderful, it's not really going to generate much interest, but the thoughtful comments that add value to the conversation will often be enough for people. And people are scrolling through the comments as well, aren't they? They're not just reading the content, but looking at the comments.
Yeah, we're all nosy slash curious. I've had people, like two guys at a workshop I did back in the old days, face to face, and they both quoted my comment back to me word for word, and it was nothing to do with LinkedIn. It was about resilience as a business owner. I can't even remember what it was, but they quoted it back to me word for word, because they registered with them, it's stuck in their brain. So comments are content. I think a lot of people are flyaway, and I'm always conscious people are, you know, they are reading these comments. We are nosy. We want to see what you've got to say. So always like filter yourself for a half a second before you do it, because people will read it for sure.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. Look, I know that we have just scratched the surface, but you have given such incredible value. Jennifer, how can people connect with you? I mean, I know that we're live streaming across a few platforms, including LinkedIn. Connect or follow Jennifer. I'm sure that what she said, we can really kind of go and have a look at her content, look at her profile. That's always good too. But what are some of the things that you've got coming up, and how can people work with you? Share a little bit more of that too, please.
Yeah, I mean, I usually do a monthly Ask Me Anything LinkedIn Live, the first Wednesday of every month at 11 a.m. UK time. So God knows what it is, Australia time, quite late for you. But this month, I'm not actually doing it because I'm going back to Ireland to see my folks for the first time in over 2 years. But on the positive, I am going to be doing a 5-day challenge in September that's going to help people with visibility on their profile. And that's going to be between September the 13th to the 17th that week. And it's going to be held in my LinkedIn group that's called Networking Tips with My Super Connector. I'll share the link with you after, Marie, so you can share it. And the good thing is, if you can't attend it live because of time zone or anything, it doesn't matter. Come in. have a look back on the videos for the day and engage, because there will be people doing the challenge from outside different time zones, and you can still add value in the comments. I'll be getting everyone to engage and share feedbacks, share screenshots, so you can still get value even if you're not there live.
Yes.
So it's going to be short and sweet. I don't do massive challenges. I've done this one twice this year already, and the daily learning is 15 to 20 minutes max. One day is a bit longer, but in general it's short and sweet bursts, so that you kind of can take action, because obviously knowledge is great, but if you don't take action, it's pointless. So that is coming up, and I will
We
share
can keep learning, can't we? It's the action taking that really counts. I love that. So absolutely, we will get that link, so that if people are watching the live stream later, and we find that people catch up and watch later anyway, that the link is there, that they can go and find that. And you say that you run that a number of times per year. So if people do listen to the audio version of this podcast, what would be the website that they would go and check out? Is there a website that we could draw people's attention to?
Yeah, sure. So my company's called My Super Connector, and the website's just www.mysuperconnector.co.uk. So the main two places you'll find me is hanging out on my website or hanging out on LinkedIn. So Jennifer Corcoran, LinkedIn trainer, you'll find me. I'm connected to Anne-Marie. I should pop up.
That's right. Well, look, thank you so very much. It's been a wonderful way to finish my evening. You've given me some incredible insights and it's just consistency, isn't it? Just keep doing that, and you build the momentum. And I think that's with any strategy that you use. Don't give up, because it takes time to build momentum, and it's the momentum that is so very, very important to maintain. And then, success will be there, whatever that is for you to find, whether it be increasing the number of people you connected with, whether it is speaking opportunities, the lives, clients opportunities, referral partners. It will be there, but it will be dependent on the consistency and the right actions that you're taking each and every day, or week, or monthly, whatever kind of fits in with your plan. But look, thank you so very much for coming on the show. It's been wonderful, and please connect with Jennifer, and maybe we'll see you on the live challenge that you've got going in September with Jennifer too in her group. Terrific.
The more the merrier.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it doesn't matter, as you said, with the different time zones. I know Australia and the UK can sometimes have an awkward time zone. Mind you, it's not too bad at the moment, because what time is it for you now?
It was 9 a.m. when we started.
9 a.m. So it's 6 p.m. when we started. So we can probably catch the replays and still continue to communicate if you're this part of the world in your challenge. But look, thanks once again for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. And like you said, I completely echo. It's all about their consistency. So keep going. I'd love to say it's a quick win. It can take 6 months if you're going full steam ahead. It could even take 12 months. But the main thing is, once you get your name out there and you become known, then the leads are consistent. So it's worth putting in that time and effort.
It is. It so is. Because one of the things that you'll find is that the content, people can go back and find that. When they find you as a great resource, they will probably most likely binge read and binge watch and binge listen to the content that is there on that platform to be found. So definitely recommend that you go and follow the advice of Jennifer. I mean, you're walking your talk anyway. So that's fantastic. So thanks again, Jennifer. It's been awesome having you on the show.
Thanks, Anne-Marie. Have a nice evening.
And a nice day to you too. All right. Bye for now.
This podcast is brought to you by theinfluencealliance.com. Want to influence real change with your message by becoming known as a trusted authority in your industry while building a sustainable and scalable business you love? Find out how by accessing our free podcast series at www.theinfluencealliance.com/podcast series. That's theinfluencealliance.com/podcast series.